They say, you never really know someone until they show you who they are. I thought I knew my wife. I thought our marriage was built on trust, loyalty, and love. But sometimes the person sleeping next to you every night is a stranger wearing a familiar face. My name is David, and this is the story of how I discovered the truth about the woman I loved, and how I made sure she would never forget what she destroyed. It started on a Tuesday, a completely ordinary Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always our quiet nights. No plans, no commitments. Just us. Dinner at home, maybe a movie. Simple, comfortable, or so I thought. I came home early that day. My meeting got canceled, and I decided to surprise Sarah with her favorite Thai takeout. I even grabbed those spring rolls she always says she shouldn't eat, but can never resist. I was smiling as I walked up our driveway, thinking about how her face would light up when she saw the food. The front door was unlocked. That should have been my first clue. Sarah was always careful about locking doors, almost paranoid about it. But I brushed it off. Maybe she just ran to get the mail or something. I stepped inside, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV playing. No music from her phone. Nothing. I set the food down on the kitchen counter and called out her name. Sarah, honey, I'm home early. No response. I walked through the living room, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. That's when I heard it. A sound coming from upstairs, muffled, rhythmic, and then laughter. Her laughter. But it wasn't the laugh I knew. It was different, intimate. Secret, my heart started pounding. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she was on the phone with a friend. Maybe she was watching something funny. But my gut knew. Deep down, some part of me already knew. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The sounds were coming from our bedroom. Our bedroom. The room where we'd promised each other forever. Where we'd talked about our future, our dreams, our children we wanted to have someday. The door was slightly open. Just a crack. Just enough. I pushed it open, and my entire world shattered into a million pieces. Sarah was in our bed. Our bed. With him. Mark. My business partner. My best friend since college. The guy who was the best man at our wedding. The guy who I trusted with everything. For a moment, time stopped. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. I just stood there, watching my marriage die right in front of my eyes. Sarah saw me first. Her face went white. Not red with embarrassment. White. Like she'd seen a ghost. She scrambled to cover herself, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. But no words came out. Mark turned around, and when he saw me, he had the audacity to look annoyed. Annoyed. Like I was interrupting something important. Like I was the problem. I remember feeling this strange calm wash over me. It wasn't the reaction I expected from myself. I thought I'd yell, scream, break things. But instead, I just stood there, looking at both of them, feeling absolutely nothing. It was like my emotions had just shut off, David. ... Sarah finally managed to whisper. I can explain ... I held up my hand. Don't. That's all I said. Just one word. Then I turned around and walked out of that room, down the stairs, past the Thai food still sitting on the counter, and out the front door. I got in my car and I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. For hours. Until the sun started setting and my gas light came on. That's when I finally pulled over into an empty parking lot and just sat there in the darkness. The betrayal wasn't just from Sarah. It was from Mark, too. We'd built a business together. A successful marketing firm that we'd started from nothing 5 years ago. We'd celebrated every victory together. Supported each other through every challenge. He was more than a business partner. He was family. And he'd been in my bed. With my wife, my phone started buzzing. Text after text. Sarah, calling, texting, begging me to come home so we could talk. Each message more desperate than the last. Please come home. It's not what you think. It was a mistake. I love you. Need to talk. David. David, please." I turned my phone off and threw it on the passenger seat. That night, I stayed in a hotel. A cheap, generic hotel off the highway where nobody knew me and nobody asked questions. I laid on the scratchy sheets, staring at the ceiling, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to do something much, much worse. I was going to destroy everything they cared about, piece by piece, and I was going to make sure they watched it all crumble. The next morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. The shock was gone. The numbness had faded. In its place was something cold, something calculated, something that scared me a little, if I'm being honest. I checked out of the hotel and went to a coffee shop across town. I ordered a black coffee and opened my laptop. It was time to find out exactly what I was dealing with. How long had this been going on? Was it just physical, or was there more to it? Did other people know? Had I been the fool everyone was laughing at behind my back? I started with Sarah's social media. She thought she was careful, but nobody's as careful as they think they are. I went through months of posts, comments, tagged photos, looking for anything out of the ordinary. At first, nothing seemed suspicious. Just normal couple stuff. Pictures of us at restaurants, beach vacations, anniversary posts with captions about how lucky she was, how much she loved me. I felt sick reading them, knowing they were all lies. But then I noticed something. Mark appeared in our photos a lot, more than I remembered. Group dinners that I wasn't at. Work events where they were sitting suspiciously close. Beach trips that she'd told me were girls' weekends. I zoomed in on one photo from 3 months ago. Sarah at a restaurant I didn't recognize, smiling at the camera. In the background, slightly blurred, but definitely there, was Mark. This was supposedly her girls' night out. I dug deeper. I checked Mark's social media too. He was more careless. There were photos of him at places Sarah had been on the same days. Same restaurants. Same parks. Same hotels during business trips. 3 months. At least 3 months. Maybe longer, but I needed proof. Real proof. Not just circumstantial evidence from social media. I needed something concrete. I went home mid-morning when I knew Sarah would be at her yoga class. At least that's where her calendar said she'd be. After what I'd discovered, I wasn't sure I could trust anything anymore. The house felt different now, contaminated. Everything reminded me of the betrayal. The couch, where we used to watch movies together. The kitchen, where she'd kiss me while I cooked breakfast. The photos on the walls of our supposedly happy life. I went to our bedroom. I'd barely slept in that room for 3 years, and now I'd never sleep there again. I started searching. Drawers, closets, under the bed. Looking for anything that might tell me more in her nightstand, tucked under some old magazines. I found a burner phone. A cheap flip phone I'd never seen before. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Text messages. Hundreds of them. Between Sarah and Mark, going back 6 months. 6 months? I sat on the edge of the bed and read through them. Each message was like a knife in my chest. They weren't just having an affair. They were in love. Or at least they thought they were. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Dee is working late again. I wish we didn't have to hide anymore. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. We should just tell him. Run away together. Soon, we just need to figure out the business first. Then we'll be free. The business. They were planning to take the business too. I took photos of everything with my own phone. Every message. Every photo. Every piece of evidence. Then I put the burner phone back exactly where I found it. I needed more information about their business plans, so I did something I'm not proud of. But desperate times call for desperate measures. I installed monitoring software on Sarah's laptop and phone, the kind that tracks everything. Messages, calls, emails, location, everything. I know it sounds extreme, but I needed to know exactly what I was up against. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect husband. I came home from that first night and told Sarah we needed to talk. She cried. She apologized. She swore it was a mistake, that it only happened once, that she loved me and wanted to fix our marriage. I let her believe I believed her. I told her I needed time to think, but I was willing to try to work through it. She was so relieved, she cried even harder. She hugged me and promised she'd do anything to make it right. Meanwhile, Mark called me. He actually had the nerve to call me. He apologized, told me he was drunk, that it was a huge mistake, said he valued our friendship and our business partnership too much to let this destroy everything. But I was willing to try to move past it. They both thought they'd gotten away with it, that I was just another forgiving fool. But while they thought everything was going back to normal, I was watching, learning, gathering evidence. The monitoring software showed me everything. Sarah wasn't going to yoga. She was going to Mark's apartment. The late work meetings Mark claimed to have were actually hotel rooms. They were still seeing each other every single day. And the business discussions. They were planning to force me out. Mark had been secretly meeting with investors, trying to get funding to buy out my share of the company at a fraction of what it was worth. Sarah was helping him, providing information about our finances, our assets, everything. They were going to take my wife, my best friend, my business, and my financial security. They were going to leave me with nothing while they rode off into the sunset together. But they made one critical mistake. They assumed I was weak, that I'd just accept it, that I'd go quietly. They had no idea what was coming. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I'd never understood that expression until now. Warm revenge is emotional, messy, impulsive. It makes you do stupid things that feel good in the moment but destroy you in the end. Cold revenge. Cold revenge is calculated, patient, strategic. It's about thinking 10 steps ahead while your enemy thinks they've already won. I spent 2 weeks building my plan. 2 weeks of smiling at Sarah across the dinner table. 2 weeks of taking business calls with Mark like nothing was wrong. 2 weeks of watching them sneak around, thinking they were so clever. First, I needed to protect the business. Mark thought he was being smart, meeting with investors behind my back. But what he didn't know was that I'd always been the real brains behind our operation. He was the face, the salesman. I was the one who actually understood the numbers, the contracts, the legal structure. I called our company lawyer, Tom. Tom and I had gone to law school together before I switched to business. He was someone I trusted completely. Tom, I need to talk to you about something sensitive, I said during a private meeting at his office. What's going on, David? You look stressed. I told him everything. About Sarah and Mark, about their affair, about their plan to force me out of the business. Tom's face went from concerned to furious. That's not just betrayal. David, if Mark is trying to manipulate the company's valuation to force you out, that's fraud. That's breach of fiduciary duty. We can destroy him legally. That's exactly what I want to talk to you about, I said. But I need to be smart about this. I need to make sure I'm protected before I make any moves. Over the next week, Tom and I went through every document, every contract, every agreement Mark and I had signed when we started the company. We looked for any vulnerabilities, any ways Mark could try to screw me over. What we found was beautiful. Our original partnership agreement, the one we'd signed 5 years ago, had a morality clause. It was standard boilerplate that most people don't pay attention to. But it basically said that if either partner engaged in behavior that damaged the company's reputation or violated the trust of the partnership, the other partner could force a buyout at a predetermined valuation formula, the formula we'd agreed to 5 years ago, when the company was worth almost nothing. If I could prove Mark had violated the morality clause, I could force him to sell his share of the company to me for about 20% of what it was actually worth today. This is perfect, Tom said, grinning. With the evidence you have of the affair, especially since he's your business partner and it's with your wife, we can absolutely argue he violated the morality clause. The affair directly impacted your ability to work together and trust each other in the business. Can you draft the paperwork? I asked, but I don't want to file it yet. I want everything ready to go, but I need to time this perfectly. You got it? But David, are you sure about this? Once we start this process, there's no going back. I thought about Mark in my bed, in my house, planning to take everything from me. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. While Tom handled the business side, I focused on Sarah. The marriage was dead. That was clear. But we owned a house together. We had joint bank accounts. We had assets. I met with a divorce attorney, Patricia. She was known as the most aggressive divorce lawyer in the state. If you wanted to destroy your spouse in court, Patricia was who you called. I want everything documented, I told her. The affair, the planning, the deception, all of it. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. In this state, adultery affects alimony and asset division. With the evidence you have, especially if we can show she was actively helping your business partner defraud you, we can make a very strong case that she deserves nothing. She has a good job, I said. She's a marketing director. She doesn't need my money. It's not about need, Patricia said. It's about sending a message. You want her to understand that actions have consequences. That's what we're going to do. Over the next week, Patricia prepared all the divorce paperwork. We documented everything. The affair timeline, the financial planning with Mark, the lies, the deception. We also did something else. We froze all the joint accounts. Not illegally, nothing like that. But we moved my portion of the money into separate accounts. The house was in both our names, but I'd made the down payment and paid the majority of the mortgage. Patricia made sure we had all that documented. When do you want to file? Patricia asked. Soon, I said, but I'm coordinating with my business attorney. Everything needs to happen at the same time. Maximum impact. Meanwhile, I kept playing my part, the forgiving husband, the understanding business partner. Sarah thought we were healing. She was being extra sweet, cooking my favorite meals, suggesting date nights. Mark thought we were moving past it too. He was being overly friendly at work, suggesting we grab beers after meetings, trying to act like everything was normal. They had no idea they were dancing on the edge of a cliff, but I wasn't done yet. I wanted them to feel safe, comfortable. I wanted them to think they'd won, that I was just another fool who'd forgiven and forgotten, because the fall from the top is so much harder than the fall from the bottom. I started making plans for a fresh start. I told Sarah I thought we should renew our vows, have a ceremony with just us, to symbolize our new beginning. She cried tears of joy and said yes. I told Mark I wanted to expand the business, bring in new investors, grow bigger. He loved the idea. He thought I was giving him exactly what he wanted. Everything was coming together perfectly. They thought they were getting everything they wanted. The affair could continue in secret. They'd ease me out of the business eventually. They'd have each other, the money, and the success. But in reality, they were walking right into the trap I'd spent weeks building, and in just a few days, the trap was going to snap shut. They say timing is everything. In business, in life, in revenge. You can have the perfect plan, but if your timing's off, the whole thing falls apart. My timing was about to be perfect. It was a Friday morning. I'd chosen Friday specifically because I wanted them to spend the entire weekend sitting in the wreckage of their lives. I woke up early and got dressed in my best suit. Sarah asked why I was so dressed up for work. Big meeting with potential investors, I lied. Want to make a good impression? She smiled and kissed me goodbye. Good luck, honey. I'm so proud of how hard you're working to grow the business. The irony was almost funny. Almost. I arrived at the office before anyone else. I had a few things to set up. I'd arranged for a company-wide meeting at 10 a.m., told everyone. It was about exciting new developments in the future of the company. Mark arrived around 8:30, his usual time. He poked his head into my office. Hey man, what's this meeting about? You didn't tell me we were doing a company announcement today. Just trust me, I said, smiling. It's going to be good. Really good. He grinned and walked away, probably thinking I was about to announce the expansion we discussed. Maybe even thinking about how he'd eventually push me out of the picture at 9:45. Tom arrived. He was carrying a briefcase full of documents. We went into my office and closed the door. Everything ready? I asked. Everything, he confirmed. The board members are here too. They're waiting in the conference room. I briefed them this morning on everything. They're not happy with Mark, to put it mildly. Our board of directors consisted of our three main investors. They'd put money into the company early on and trusted us to grow it. When Tom told them what Mark had been doing, trying to manipulate the company's valuation and conduct behind their backs, they were furious. At 10 a.m., everyone gathered in the main conference room, all 23 employees, plus the board members. Mark stood at the front next to me, thinking we were partners presenting together. "Thanks everyone for coming," I started. I know this was short notice, but I have some important announcements to make about the future of the company. I could see Mark nodding along, that fake supportive smile on his face. First, I want to talk about trust. When Mark and I started this company 5 years ago, we built it on a foundation of trust. Trust with each other, trust with our employees, trust with our investors. That trust is everything. Mark was still nodding. He had no idea what was coming. Unfortunately, I've recently discovered that trust has been broken. Severely broken. Mark's smile faltered just a little. Mark has been conducting business behind my back. Meeting with outside investors, without board approval, attempting to manipulate the company's valuation for personal gain. These actions represent a serious breach of his fiduciary duty and a violation of our partnership agreement. The room went silent. Mark's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" he stammered. "David, this is crazy. I have documentation of all of it," I continued, my voice calm and steady. "Emails, meeting records, everything. Our board has reviewed it all and agrees that this constitutes a material breach of our partnership agreement." What? Stepped forward and handed Mark a document. "This is notice that under the morality clause of your partnership agreement, David is exercising his right to force a buyout of your shares. The valuation formula is clearly laid out in the original agreement you both signed." Mark's hands were shaking as he looked at the papers. This can't be. The valuation formula. This is from 5 years ago, when the company was worth nothing." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have thought about that before you betrayed your partner." One of the board members stood up. "Richard, our largest investor. Mark, effective immediately, you're removed from all operational duties. Security will escort you out. You have 1 week to accept the buyout offer. If you don't, we'll pursue legal action for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty." Mark looked around the room, desperate. "This is insane. David, please, we can talk about this. We're best friends." I corrected him. "We were best friends. Until you decided my wife was more important than our friendship." The room erupted in whispers. No one knew about the affair until that moment. Mark's face went from pale to red. You can't do this." "I'll fight this. I'll sue." You'll lose," Tom interrupted. "I've seen the evidence. Any judge will side with David. You can accept the buyout and walk away with something, or you can fight it and end up with nothing, plus legal fees. Your choice." Security guards appeared at the door. Mark looked at me one last time, anger and desperation in his eyes. Then he turned and walked out. Just like that. 5 years of partnership, gone in 10 minutes. The employees were stunned. I spent the next hour explaining what had happened, assuring everyone their jobs were safe. That this was about Mark's personal choices and not about the company's future. But I wasn't done yet. Phase 2 was about to begin. I left the office around noon and drove across town to Sarah's workplace. She was a marketing director at a mid-sized advertising firm. She had no idea what was coming. I'd called her boss, Jennifer, earlier that morning. I'd asked for a meeting and explained that I needed to discuss something urgent regarding Sarah's professional conduct. Jennifer met me in her office. At 12:30, she looked concerned. "Mr. Walsh, what's this about? Is Sarah okay?" "That depends on your definition of okay," I said. I pulled out my phone and showed her some of the messages between Sarah and Mark, the ones where they discussed using company information. where Sarah had shared confidential details about my business to help Mark plan his takeover. Sarah has been involved in what essentially amounts to corporate espionage, I explained. She's been sharing proprietary business information with my business partner to help him defraud me and my investors. I'm not here to cause problems for your company, but I thought you should know that your marketing director has been using her position to access and share confidential information. Jennifer's face went serious. This is very concerning. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'll need to review this with our legal team.
Of course.
I understand. I'm also serving her with divorce papers today, so she's going to be dealing with a lot. I just wanted you to have all the information. I left Jennifer's office and drove home. Sarah would be getting home around 5 p.m., same as always. I wanted to be there when she arrived. I spent the afternoon packing. Not my stuff. Her stuff. Everything. Clothes, shoes, cosmetics, everything that belonged to her. I packed into boxes and suitcases. I piled them all by the front door at 5:15. I heard her car pull into the driveway. I was sitting in the living room waiting. She walked in and immediately saw the boxers. David, what? What's going on? What is all this? I stood up and handed her an envelope. Divorce papers. I'm filing today. You have 30 days to respond. Her face went white. What? No, David, please. I thought we were working through this. I thought you thought I was stupid enough to believe your lies, I interrupted. I know you've been seeing Mark this entire time. Every yoga class, every girls' night, every late work meeting. I know all of it. She tried to speak, but I kept going. I also know about your plan to help him force me out of the business. The meetings with investors, the information you shared, all of it, David, please. I love you. I made a mistake, but Mark's out of the company. Bought out under the morality clause for a fraction of what his shares are worth. And I had a meeting with your boss today. She's very interested in reviewing how you've been using company resources and information. Sarah's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard on the stairs, staring at me. You've been staying at your sister's place, according to your location. So that's where you can go now. The locks will be changed within the hour. Your name is off all the joint accounts. Your things are packed. It's over. You can't do this, she whispered. The house is mine too. Half of everything is mine. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Actually, given the adultery laws in the state and the fact that you were actively participating in fraud against me, my attorney is pretty confident you won't get much of anything. But you're welcome to try. That'll just cost you more in legal fees. I walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Sarah. I hope he was worth it. She sat there for a moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she stood up, grabbed as many boxes as she could carry, and walked out. I closed the door behind her and locked it. It was done. The next few weeks were chaos, but it was controlled chaos. My chaos. The kind you plan for and prepare for. Mark tried to fight the buyout. He hired a lawyer and threatened to sue. But Tom was ready. We had everything documented. The breach of fiduciary duty. The secret meetings. The attempt to defraud the company. His lawyer took one look at the evidence and advised him to take the deal. He did. He sold his half of the company for pennies on the dollar. The business that we'd built together, that was now worth millions, he got less than $200,000 for his share. The same share that investors had been willing to value at over $3 million? I heard through mutual friends that he was destroyed. Not just financially, but emotionally. He'd lost his best friend, his business, and his reputation. Word spreads fast in our industry. Nobody wanted to partner with someone who'd betrayed their business partner so thoroughly. Sarah fared a bit better, but not by much. Her company didn't fire her, but they did put her on probation and removed her from any projects involving sensitive client information. Her career took a massive hit. The divorce went exactly as Patricia predicted. With the evidence of adultery and her involvement in Mark's scheme, the judge wasn't sympathetic. She got almost nothing. A small percentage of the house equity, none of my business, no alimony. She had to pay her own legal fees, which were substantial since she'd tried to fight it. I heard she and Mark tried to make it work after everything fell apart. After all, they destroyed their lives for each other. They should at least try to make it mean something, right? They lasted 3 months. Turns out, a relationship built on betrayal and deception isn't a great foundation for long-term happiness. Who knew? The last I heard, Mark moved to a different state, trying to rebuild his career and his reputation. Sarah's still in town, but we don't travel in the same circles anymore. As for me, the first few months were hard. Not because I missed them. I didn't, because I had to rebuild my sense of trust in people. When the two people closest to you betray you so completely, it makes you question everyone. I threw myself into the business. Without Mark, I had to work twice as hard, but it was worth it. The company actually did better. Turns out, his sales expertise wasn't as valuable as he thought. We grew by 40% in the first year after he left. I went to therapy. I needed to process everything that had happened and make sure I didn't become a bitter, angry person who couldn't trust anyone. My therapist helped me understand that what Sarah and Mark did said everything about them and nothing about me. I wasn't unlovable. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't weak. I was simply unlucky enough to trust to people who didn't deserve it. And the revenge. Did it make me feel better? Honestly, yes and no. In the moment when everything was falling apart for them, they realized what they'd lost, there was satisfaction. I won't lie about that. There was a dark part of me that enjoyed watching them suffer the consequences of their choices. But long term, the best revenge wasn't what I did to them. It was what I did for myself. I rebuilt my life. I focused on my business. I reconnected with real friends, people who actually valued loyalty and honesty. I started dating again, slowly and carefully, and eventually met someone who understood trust and respect. The best revenge was living well. Was proving that I didn't need either of them to be successful and happy. Was showing that their betrayal didn't break me, it just cleared out the garbage from my life. About a year after everything happened, I ran into Sarah at a coffee shop. It was awkward and brief. She looked tired, older. She asked how I was doing. I'm great, I said honestly. Business is thriving. Life is good, she nodded, sadness in her eyes. I'm glad. And David, I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. I thought about that apology for a moment. A year ago, I would have thrown it back in her face. I would have told her exactly what I thought of her and her apologies. But a year later, with therapy and distance and healing, I just nodded. I appreciate that, I said. Take care of yourself, Sarah. And I meant it. Not because I forgave her, exactly, but because carrying around anger and bitterness was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. She'd already paid for what she'd done. I didn't need to keep punishing her. I needed to move on. So what's the lesson here? What's the moral of this story? It's not about revenge. Revenge is a tool, not a goal. Some people will tell you that revenge is never the answer, that you should take the high road, that you should just walk away. But I don't think that's always right either. Sometimes, people need to face consequences for their actions. Sometimes, taking the high road just means letting them get away with destroying you. Sometimes, standing up for yourself and fighting back is the right thing to do. But here's the key. Revenge should never be the end goal. It should be a step toward protecting yourself and rebuilding your life. I didn't destroy Mark and Sarah because I enjoyed causing pain. I did it because they were trying to destroy me first. I did it to protect my business, my assets, and my future. The suffering they experienced was just a side effect of me defending myself. The real lesson is this: trust carefully. But when that trust is broken, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Document everything. Protect yourself legally and financially. And don't let guilt or love or history make you accept being treated like garbage. You teach people how to treat you. If you let them walk all over you, they will. If you show them that actions have consequences, they'll think twice before betraying you. But most importantly, remember that the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's life. It's building an amazing life for yourself. It's proving that you didn't need them anyway. It's finding real happiness and success without them. Because at the end of the day, living well isn't just the best revenge. It's the only revenge that actually matters. 3 years have passed since that Tuesday when I came home early. The company is worth more than Mark and I ever dreamed it would be. I'm engaged to an amazing woman who values honesty and loyalty as much as I do. I've rebuilt my trust in people, slowly and carefully. And Sarah and Mark, they're just characters in a story I sometimes tell. A cautionary tale about betrayal and consequences. They thought they were writing their love story. Instead, they wrote their own downfall. And me. I wrote my comeback. Sometimes betrayal is the universe's way of removing people from your life who don't deserve to be there. It feels like the end of the world when it happens. But if you handle it right, if you stand up for yourself and rebuild with purpose, it can be the beginning of something better. Trust your gut. Protect yourself. Stand up when you need to. And never, ever let someone make you feel like you deserve their betrayal. You didn't. They failed. Not you. And in the end, that's all that matters. Asterisk betrayal reveals character. Yours and theirs. Make sure when the dust settles, you're proud of who you became in the fire.